Hey there, I'm Cersei, and today I decided to make this video because of an experience that I had in a Priory 12. I'm usually not one to make videos. There's just something about it that made me want to talk about healing in World of Warcraft, what makes it fun and enjoyable, and how Priory just opened my eyes to it of what it can be and what I've been missing out on by healing at what would be lower keys or ones that don't push my limits in the same way, and that it can feel extremely rewarding and engaging. Um, and so, just in the 12, this obviously is just 9. It was just after that 12 I decided I wanted to make this video, and so I quickly hopped back into a Priory to get some footage, and this group honestly seemed like some fun. They were begging in the group finder for somebody to choose them, and so I decided just go have some fun and play out a 9 with them. Obviously some things don't reach the same levels in terms of damage and how you get to play it as a healer, but I think there's enough there to talk about and discuss in the same way with at least the mechanics. And so one of the things I feel that makes Priory great for a healer is you get to experience every damage profile, it feels like, or at least a good amount of them, in an environment where you have to push your limits in it. Where it's not the same one, like there's 3 that I'm going to talk about. I mean 4 technically, that you feel challenged in. And I feel that's something that doesn't get discussed enough as a healer, where when you're a DPS, you can always push your limits in a dungeon. You can always do more damage. Where you can always try to see that number go higher as you optimize things more and more. As a healer, you don't really have that option. Every health bar, unless you're a disc priest, only goes to 100%. You only get to heal people up to that point. Other than that, it goes on a different meter as overhealing, and it doesn't. It's not fun to overheal, and yes, there are things of like other things to do where I can contribute to CC, interrupts, doing mechanics. But if those things don't exist, what remains for a healer is DPS. And when thinking of the parts that are fun as a healer, DPS isn't really the most fun thing, especially like this build I'm playing right now as a Wrestler Druid. I don't have Thrash, I don't have Swipe, I don't have Heart of the Wild. My DPS rotation is Rake, Shred, Rip. I don't have damage procs to play around. I don't have cooldowns to play around other than Convoke, but in that case I need to be planning to make sure I'm not going to need to use it. And in Pugs, sometimes it can feel a little risky to use your cooldowns, in the sense of, like, if mistakes get made, it's nice to be able to respond to them. Like, obviously there's going to be some mistakes, like a Flame Strike getting hit, where you're not going to be able to. And those are sometimes nice, where it's like, I don't have to try to do a ton to save you. Just, there's no one to blame but yourself, and you know what, that's okay. But again, it's a 9. It's not too big of a deal. They happen. Yeah, so like DPS as a healer is pretty boring. It's way more fun as a damage dealer. Obviously, like, you get to push your numbers way higher. You actually have like decision making the same way I like to have as a healer, but you don't really when you're DPSing as a healer, unless maybe Holy Paladin and Mistweaver Monk, maybe. And even then, I wouldn't say the rotation's crazy or unique, where it's for Mistweaver, Jade Fire Stomp, Crackling Jade Lightning, and Spinning Crane Kick. At least in giant AoE pulls. But other than that, you're going to either spam Chain Lightning. If I had Swipe, I'd spam Swipe. That's nothing ridiculous. And so that's where I feel Priory, it doesn't give you a ton of time to be a damage dealer, which I'm okay with as a healer. And then here we get into the first damage profile, where I feel it's rare that tanks actually take decent damage. Like, tanks are pretty good at keeping themselves alive. Don't usually require a ton of watch from the healer, even though I like to place my life blooms on them all the time, which honestly could probably be better served on a DPS. But that's just one of the ways I need to make sure I'm getting better. Like, this fight, I wouldn't say it's like a ridiculous amount of tank damage. Obviously, as it goes higher in key level, you can definitely feel it a bit more, and it becomes this balance of what can the healer deal with, and then what can the tank use as cooldowns to help out with that, especially during like these Holy Radiances where you get to deal with that small amount of AoE. And it's not... It's an AoE that feels manageable, and it doesn't feel like the main part, and there's enough time between it to fully reset. Usually have something for it, or you can plan for it pretty well, and it's not too crazy. Whereas, especially on hierarchies, you get to actually just keep a tank alive, which you don't really get to do on too many boss fights. Usually it's other mechanics that are going to kill people, and it's not going to be the tank going down as the first person. The tank's usually the last person to go down on a fight, so it's nice having one fight where they feel like they're actually being threatened a little bit. No. And it's not like it's a low heal check either. Like, I'm at 2 million HPS right now, but it's not... It doesn't feel unmanageable. Yeah, so it's nice. It's just a nice fight to get things started. And it's just nice to have a damage profile you don't usually see. But here we are getting into what was my favorite pull of the 12. We don't do it in this 9. We're in the 12, we pulled the left and right side as well with Lust, and we're dealing with 5 paladins. And how paladins are coded, how their spell queuing works, is just so nice. Start off, it's this like damage profile of, you get some time to prep, obviously, you know what's coming, and then you have 3 or 4 seconds to get people above a threshold on every hit. And so like here, you see that first hit goes out. Okay, especially at higher key levels, you're going to see this yo-yo effect where, alright, now that Consecration, now that Sacred Toll is going to be coming out here shortly, or it already did. Make sure I have the right one. Sacred Toll 1, Sacred Toll 2. And you can see, like, It's not too bad on this one. Um, but when you have all 5 of them with Lust, you're getting this constant yo-yo effect for 20 seconds, like 10 seconds as all of them go off. But the best thing is none of them they can't be synced. If they could be synced, it would just be impossible. Like, it just wouldn't be fun. But you end up with this fun thing of getting to yo-yo health bars and getting things pushed above a like threshold, and then you get a break. You get a time to reset, maybe help out with some CC, and then okay, it's time to get things prepped again for the next one. Sacred Toll goes out, okay, then the next hit's gonna come, boom, okay, and you gotta plan my cooldowns. And especially in dungeons where you're not getting pushed to your limit, you can tell pretty easily, because it's, do I truly need to press Convoke in the dungeon at a 9? No. I could fully get away with keeping everyone healed without pressing Convoke once. Would it be harder? Yes, but it's fully possible, and that's not, as a damage dealer, I don't think it would ever be fun in a dungeon if it was like, oh, I never need to press my big cooldown. As a fire mage, I never need to press combustion, and will time the dungeon or it won't feel any different. Because that's the thing with damage dealers, you get to see health bars drop faster. And things can go quicker. Again, as a healer, you get to 100%, that's it. It's done. There's nothing else for you to do. At that point, find something else. And so when you actually have to plan cooldowns, which this last part of the dungeon, I feel, requires it more than most. I feel like you actually are going to be more often than not using Convoke on cooldown. Like right now, I should probably be using it here. Just again, needing to improve as my DPS. Seeing how mode's able to do, like, weave a ton of damage in during Candle King while doing 3.5 million HPS is ridiculous, and I would love to learn how to do that in the same way, but not there yet. Yeah, it's just something of being able to actually like use cooldowns regularly. I mean, this fight too is also, it's nice how it's set up where it doesn't feel all or nothing, and you have a good contribution as the healer where you have a role in this fight beyond just like, I mean, letting Burning Light go off isn't going to help, but let me get back to the rest of that. With the Castigator's shield going into the Sacrificial Pyre, so here you get everything prepped, you have these shields go out. Okay, I need to get people topped as quickly as possible so we can start this pyre. Because you can pretty much do the pyre at any point. It's going to be limited by where the healer's at. Obviously that one we had Divine Shield for it, so that dealt with it. But in most other cases, you're not going to want to do the Sacrificial Pyre right away if everyone's at 10% health. Which sometimes it seems on those like super high keys, it's going to. On a 9, not so much. And we can start doing it immediately. But there's this like counterplay that you get to be engaged in fully, where it's like, oh man, I need to do my part now and push this quick enough so we can then get to this next mechanic. Nobody else can push their health bar up other than like alter time or things like that, but not in the same way. So here, I know this is Come in here, plan out the cooldowns. No, okay, get hots rolling so we could start that right away. And get everyone topped through these hits. And it's that same, I don't know if it's just, I feel it's fun having the yo-yo effect when the yo-yo effect isn't like 100 to 0 and there's room for like decision making in it where it's not fully punished of like, okay, you know what, you're gonna get to recover at the end of this, but everybody's gonna be at 10%. So then if like you can get people to make it through, but are they gonna make it through with 10% of their health, or are they gonna make it through with 50% of their health? And then if you can only get them through with 10% of their health, well then everybody else needs to be on top of kicks coming out of it, where you can see that with how like the casters are in Priory compared to others. They actually have more delays between casts. They don't chain cast in the same way. If you look at the mages coming up here and the priests, you'll notice they'll cast a fireball and then they'll walk towards the tank a bit, or they'll do something for a short period of time. And it allows you to recover those mistakes. Obviously at the highest level that can't happen because you're not able to, but at these levels you're able to. And so you can see the priest is stunned there, but here the mage isn't doing anything. Okay, a fireball. Interrupted, but let's see what happens before the other fireball. So I'm pretty sure a different one goes out. Holy Smite goes out, gets done. No, okay. I'll keep an eye on some fireballs here as it goes. Yeah, it just feels nice to be able to deal with that compared to, say, the Wicker Light bolts in Dark Flame Cleft, where you can't keep up. At a certain point, they will just chain cast, and good luck. Yeah, and there's just nothing. It has to be CC'd. You don't get to have healing counterplay to it, so it's not focused in the same way on how the healer can contribute. I mean, like here, there we go. We see a cast go off. It changes spell to a Firebolt Volley. And of course we let 2 go off, and yeah. We'll deal with that. Or it's just that they're long enough casts to not, like, to feel like you have counterplay to it. I mean, it's good to be able to contribute, kick here or there, interrupt. I mean, I think that's important for a healer to be able to do, unless obviously you're a priest, and then just look pretty and do insane healing. And one mob I also want to highlight is the light spawns, where yes, at a certain point they become quite difficult to deal with in terms of they chunk people like crazy. But I do like how they always have a lead up cast to it. So like here, is it here or is it at the next point? I think it's at the next cast here. Or okay, that one goes on there. And here, I should be good enough to realize, or like I at least want to be more aware where the light spawn is casting on me. I have 2 seconds to start setting up hots on myself to prepare for the damage intake. I'm able to respond to it. I could get a life bloom on myself. I should have bark skin up immediately. I know it's coming in, get a rejuve up, so that way at least I have some hots rolling here to help with the damage intake. But instead I don't. It's a 9. I bark skin late. I mean, it's not going to be the end of the world. Yeah. But it's nice to at least be able to do that and to have a way to be better against it compared to a cast that's just immediately channeled into somebody and it's not given a lead up. You don't have an opportunity for the same counterplay, and it's not a proactive gameplay experience. It's fully reactive. And in some cases, it can just feel like it puts you way too far behind to even be able to counteract it. And if you can't like proactively do anything about it, or you can't react to it in a way that you feel like, oh, hey, this is damage coming in, this is a healer's responsibility, there's nothing I can do about it, it doesn't feel good. And here we get to another part of Priory where it's just, so the second type of damage intake or damage profile that I want to highlight that pushes your limits is those paladins from like the room before the other Brown Pike, even though I think they're the same. I think this one's just undead. Where you're dealing with this burst AoE healing, where you have to like push people's health bars up within these 3-4 second windows, and it's a ton of fun to do. And then you get into this undead Brown Pike fight where it's about that consistent AoE HPS and pushing your limit there, because at the highest key levels, it's crazy some of the numbers that you see from some of these healers. Like I think I've seen them go up to like between 4 and 5 million on Brown Pike, and like Candle King at 21 I think was like 4 million. It's not the same length, but it's still such a high sustain, so it's pushing the limit of what you can do. And that's again where Priory, like at a 12, and I'm sure higher, like obviously higher, but it's where it starts to feel like you get to start planning your cooldowns. You finally reach the point of, oh, I have decision making now, I have to plan things out, I get to be similar to a DPS. I get to actually like have more of an impact on the things that seem fun instead of doing the worst DPS rotation, where it's a rake, a shred, a shred, a shred, and then a rip, and then call it a day. And then here's something also I want to talk about with this Merprey fight, that the blinding light, it's not, well, first we'll watch me do the worst purify bait, where let's make sure we're going to use the other stairs, even though there's enough room, but we'll go to the other side. With the blinding light, it's an ability that it does a hit of AoE damage, but and then if you look at it, obviously you get CC'd, but it's not going to be death for the person if nothing happens. And instead of making it just like an effect that you can't do anything about, the person just gets CC'd, they allow the healer to support. Like it's a small way, if you're ahead enough in healing, you're dealing with the inner fire, blinding light combo, and somebody accidentally looks at it, you're able to do an additional thing to help them out. If you don't, it's 3-4 seconds. It's not going to make or break it at these key levels. Like here, I'm able to recognize I'm ahead. I know the priest is more under-geared. I can get our other hunter up, get an extra 3 seconds of uptime. Does it make the biggest deal? No. But it's just another way that I feel I get to contribute, and that this dungeon's focused on healers and giving them an opportunity to shine through. Whereas I think there's examples of some places that don't. I think a very clear one is like Machinist's Garden. If you don't pull trash onto that boss fight, it is extremely boring for a healer. Okay, you have the plants, but when the plants come out, as soon as it's stunned and put on the tank, the damage intake's still gone. Like, the tank can just deal with it themselves. It's not going to be... When it's on a, like, DPS or yourself, if you don't heal them, they're going to die. But as soon as it's put on the tank, you're good. You don't need to do anything else. Go run around and moonfire and also just pug things where you're missing one count. Yeah. Also, shout out to Missed Count. Hopefully that they do well in this year's MDI. Yeah, so it's just nice to be able to have a dungeon that feels geared toward healers, where you get to experience a lot of these different things of dealing with different damage profiles, actually getting to push the limits as a healer. Because at certain points, if you don't push high enough keys, it's your role as a healer is to do an okay job. You don't become like a focal point of it, where like, okay, my damage 200k overall, not gonna make or break the dungeon. Between like, again, if we timed this and we had a Shadow Priest doing 800k, it doesn't matter my DPS. So if I can keep health bars topped, but it doesn't take a lot of effort, there's not really a ton for me to feel engaged about in the content. Like, here we can take a look. My healing in the 9 was 1.37 million. But if we go back to what it was in the 12, you get to push to 2 million HPS overall. At least on details, obviously it goes down if you upload with logs and that, but it's a 33% increase from a 9 to a 12, and the pulls were just a ton of fun. I'm sure it depends on the route, but when you have a route like that and you get to see what pushing your limits as a healer feels like, it just makes you realize why it's so much fun to play a healer in Priory. And it really makes me excited to push higher keys in the other dungeons and see where it starts to feel engaging and fun, and where the points are, like the fun moments are in those dungeons, or what ones just don't feel great. Because I mean, this dungeon does also have those spots where it doesn't feel as much fun, and I think a big one is the pull right before Dual Maul, the one with Ayima, where as a healer, without any AoE damage, and it's not a ton of damage coming in, I get to be an in-cap roar, and that's really about it. I'm also a terrible druid, and I realize I didn't put Typhoon back on my bars. Gonna fix that as soon as I can. Yeah, so like this pull, it's not great. I get to be a part of CC. I can do Vortex, Typhoon, all that fun stuff. But yeah, but otherwise, Priory has so much available, I feel, as a healer, and it's just, it was an experience I had so much fun with. And I think a big thing that also I didn't even talk about is you actually feel the importance of mana and being able to manage it well, as the whole point from Dalecry onwards, it goes pretty quick. The only spot which I feel is a smart design on their part, which may not be recognized, but they actually force you to pause before Brawn Pike, which allows the healer to recover mana. So if you do these giant pulls, which it almost feels like they set it up for, you're supposed to burn through all of your mana, and then you have these 10 seconds to recover. And you see something similar. It's a little different because usually you'd want to trigger it to start ahead of time, but like with Giggle Zap in Floodgate, where if you do the jump starters but don't step into the room, it gives you a 10-second pause as well, which is sort of a forced way to allow your healer to drink. I mean, sometimes that's nice when tanks don't pay attention. I mean, sometimes I was bad for it too. Yeah, no, it's just overall this dungeon felt so good to play at a 12 and really made me excited to heal further. And it was, I am doing it for the raid team because that's just what they needed. And I was like, sure, I'll play whatever I can. I just like playing. But this dungeon just made me feel like this is what it can be. And this is what I want it to be now. I want to be able to push my limits. I want to feel like my planning matters. I don't want to sit with Convoke on cooldown or off cooldown for the entire dungeon because I don't need to use it, or I don't need to use Trank. I think that's a big one. I think I only have to press Trank like once maybe in a dungeon. But in the 12, I actually was like, this is the perfect time to use it, and it felt impactful to use the spell. It was during it was during the big paladin pull, and it just, because it gives that healing increase to HOTS, it just made sure it sustained me through a bunch more when I was out of cooldowns. And so, overall, I'm just thrilled with the design of Priory. I want to try it on even higher keys, see what it's like at like a 15 or something if I can get up there. And yeah, thank you if you've made it to this part of the video. Thank you for listening in. I hope you enjoyed. I hope it can help inspire other people to want to play healer and understand that it can be fun. It just takes the dungeon to let you push your limits and actually get to optimize your class and feel like your decisions have meaning. Yeah. Thank you for watching, and I hope you all find the joy of healing as well. Thank you.